Trying to get control of that pool before it gets out of whack.
Trying to get it broken. Everything all.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday there was like, you could see all this pollen floating on top of the wall. And I choked to death. I got,
Makes it feel.
yeah.
Hey Todd, the
Are we streaming?
I believe
Is Janet, we streaming yet?
Yeah,
sell
should
7C
be.
capping rather than, not 7C, for CDD capping rather than sell 7C construction. I think that's probably miscoded. The other is a spreadsheet, and I'm gonna have to probably get with Chip and look at that. I'd be afraid to, I couldn't give a good answer right now. I'd have to spend a little time with that. It's probably gonna get in front of Chip and do it together. That's correct. No, it's Red River, but it's for CDD cap rather than 7C construction. I think they coded it for construction, it needs to go to capping.
Find it.
Very good.
It's streaming.
I'm out. Later.
Streaming.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend a little time on that spreadsheet. Yeah, we're gonna have to look at that.
Randy, how are you?
I don't wanna give a quick.
Doing good. You burning the candle at both ends? Yeah.
All right. Cheers, Ross.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, good.
Sheriff, how are you? Good.
I'll ask you to join me in a historical prayer. This is from the words of Billy Graham at the 1997 inauguration. We recall the Bible says, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." You also said that to whom much has been given, much shall be required. We look gratefully to the past and thank you from the very foundations of America. You granted our forefathers courage and wisdom as they trusted in you. We ask today you would inspire us by their example. Where there's been failure, forgive us. Where there's been progress, confirm. Where there has been success, give us humility. And teach us to follow your instructions more closely. Give to all those whom you have entrusted leadership today a desire to seek your will and to do it. Amen. Now the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk for the roll.
Commissioner Graham,
Present.
Thompson.
Here.
Constantopoulos.
Present.
Lanton.
Here.
Davis.
Present.
And Elkins.
Present.
You should have in front of you a copy of our agenda. This is our first attempt at a consent agenda. First, I will note item number 22, I want to move from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. Aside from that, are there any other requests to move from the consent agenda to the regular agenda?
I'd like to remove 21, 24, 25, 26, and 27.
21, 24, 25, 26, 27. Any other requests? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, including the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
It's 21, what?
21, 22, 25, 26, 27.
24, 25, 26, 27.
You said 24 also?
Item number 6, consider approval of the minutes from the March 25th, 2021 fiscal court
Motion to
meeting.
approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 7, consider approval of the minutes from the March 30th, 2021 special called meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Public comment sheet. Okay, thank you, Chief. Item number 9, we have Debbie Barnes to give a presentation regarding Holyrood. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? I'm pretty loud, so I don't have to take this off unless you all are safe, then I'll take the mask off. Leave it on? Okay. What can I tell you about Holyrood? It's a great big old house. It's a beast to take care of. I can also tell you that we take care of Holyrood very inexpensively, I would say even cheaply. On the suggestions, it said to list your board members and their affiliations. I didn't do that. Instead, I brought them. Would you ladies stand up? And the gentleman in the back can stand up last. Ladies first. This is Pat Bowman. Pat Bowman takes care of showing the house, of taking care of all of our paperwork, which she gets to me, and I promptly lose. Thank you, Miss Pat. This is Sue Anderson. Sue Anderson is our cheerleader. She's the one that gets out there and gets things done. She works between us and the Heritage Commission. She is also the vice president of the Heritage Commission. But the most important thing, she's a cheerleader. She's one that will say, it's going to be okay, calm down. And it does help. All right, Sue. And this is Miss Jean Castle. And Jean brings a world of knowledge and a wealth of patience to Holyrood. We need both. She was a teacher for many years. She's a farmer. She works with horses. So she has all the qualifications we need. She's kind, patient, and practical. Practical. Okay, Jean. Now, our gentleman here, we were lucky enough for Steve to be able to come. Steve is the president of the Clark County Winchester Heritage Commission. That board is the one that we are directly under. There are two committees. We are one of them. We are the Friends of Holyrood. Steve has done a lot since he's been, I'm going to say with his vice president, Sue. They have done a lot to start bringing people to the knowledge of what the Clark County Heritage Commission does, because you know what? They're doing things. They started having the pig picking. They started doing fundraising. They started getting word out to the community that we're here. And that hadn't been done for a while. Thank you, Steve. Okay, now what am I asking for? I'm asking for money. You know that. But before I ask for money, I want to make my plea that I made to a bunch of ladies yesterday, and I make to everybody I talk to. If you have pictures or knowledge of journals, letters, writings, most importantly, photos of things that happened at Hollywood under the ownership of the Day family, the Wheeler family. The Beckner family actually owned it for a short period of time under Judge Beckner, and the Clark family. We'd love to have those. We really have very little. I would say almost nothing. Okay, Hollywood was built between 1812 and 1814. I think everyone knows that it was Governor James Clark, his home, and it was built by him when he was a young lawyer here in town. It remained his home during his lifetime, when he was not in Washington or in Frankfurt, when he was not serving the people. What about James Clark? He was a man of his time. He was a very eloquent man, a very well-spoken man. But for his time, he was also a very far-seeing man. He was one of the first people who said, we need public education for ordinary people. And I'm not going to judge who your ancestors were. I don't know who they were. I know who mine was. Mostly farmers, some teachers, people who worked really hard to develop this place. But they were not judges or anything like that. They were plain and humble people. My family would not have been allowed to be educated for two reasons. Number one, they didn't have the money. And number two, the higher society or the higher social strata looked down on people like my ancestors would have been. They were supposed to hunt, fish, clear the country of Native Americans and make it suitable for the wealthier to come in and build beautiful homes. But those people, he wanted to educate. And he wanted it done by taxes. So, of course, the landowners weren't happy about that. He was sort of frowned upon and even maybe shunned by some of his contemporaries because of that. But when we look at our public school and our education now, a lot of it is owed to people like James Clark. So that's my talk on James Clark. He was there during his lifetime. He raised a family there. He had two wives. Both have died tragically very young. And he himself, I don't think, even lived to 60. I think he was 58 when he died. The house is there. We almost lost it once. It was within a month to 6 weeks. They were going to sign an agreement that the house was going to be demolished. And it was saved by people like Mr. Rowati and his wife, Alma. It was saved like Betty Edgington, Robert Collins, John Noonan, a lot of names I could tell you, names that you all know, saved that house. We save it every day. What do I want? I want a little money. And it's not that awful sum you see down here. I was working with my son's computer. I did try to correct everything. We had a little problem with our HVAC. The outlet line got stopped up, so the water in the attic from that particular unit ran down across the floor and into the ladies' room corner, and it did a little damage. It will cost $675 to fix that damage. The other damage was where the unit is sitting on top of the ceiling there on the second floor. The water came down there and pretty much ruined that whole corner, and it would be $1,650 to save that. Now, this also includes painting that whole room, because we're going to have to move everything the renter owns out. They're going to have to bring scaffolding in there. The ceilings are 14 feet. That's why it's $1,650 instead of, $700. But we thought since we were going to have that mess and move Miss Mary Ann Smith out anyway, get it done while we were there. So the total would be $2,325. If you all are able to let us have it, it would be cool. It would be awesome. If you're not, we'll be okay. We'll make it until we can earn the money. We are open up now. We've already had, I think, 7, rentals, which is fabulous, because this time last year we had lost more than 7 rentals. Are there any questions?
How time sensitive is the project?
Oh, I want it done tomorrow. But honestly, it's not time sensitive. It's dry. Our HVAC man is excellent. He's taking care of all the problems. Why it is sensitive, especially the bathroom, we are renting to brides. They get ready in that bathroom. they are paying a rent. We do for any bridal event, it's $500 deposit. And they walk in there and they turn around and up in that corner, it does not look good. If I were the bride, would I mind? No, I wouldn't mind. I got married in blue jeans. But a lot of the brides that we have will.
So hypothetically, it could prevent some people from using the facility and renting it out?
I can see some people when Pat is showing the house. Pat, do you think that people would turn it down just because of that, or?
Some would, but most would not.
Okay, so there you have it. Some would say, well, you don't want to be here, but most would not.
Okay.
It would be very nice, but we can live. And I do want to thank Chris Davis for bringing us here and telling us to speak to you all. He is your representative to us.
Well, Magistrate Davis, I guess that's a lead into you. Huh?
I'll speak to it for a moment, Judge. I do sit on the Heritage Commission, and Debbie had been talking to us for a while on the commission about the state of Holyrood, and they've lost a lot of revenue this last year because of the pandemic and not being able to host events and receptions and weddings, and it's been a big blow to them financially, and they run on a pretty small budget as it is, and they maintain that historic home, and it is a landmark and should be protected. They do a really good job on what they have to work with, and I encourage her to, come to you, Judge, and I know she did, and brought you the estimate on the repair. I think it would be appropriate expense for the Fiscal Court Community Fund. I'm a big believer in any property I've ever owned in getting on top of water damage as quickly as possible. And I don't think that's something that a property owner should let go or let it go, and I don't think we should here either. So, and I don't mind making the motion, Judge, if it's appropriate to do so, to move that we pay $2,325, Judge, for the repair of water damage and any related painting. And I guess that would be paid to the Friends of Holyrood.
Yes.
Debbie, to the Friends of Holyrood from the Fiscal Court Community Fund,
Second.
Judge.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to pay $2,325 from the Fiscal Court Community Fund to the Friends of Holyrood for the repairs of water damage Ms. Barnes has presented. Is there any discussion?
Just a comment or two, Judge. I don't think Holyrood received any money from the fund last year. I don't think you applied.
No, I did not. I actually did go to the city. As you know, the city is the one that gives us a grant every year to pay, and it usually $13,000 a year. That pays the taxes. I'm sorry, not taxes. It might as well be insurance. The insurance is very high on a house like that, over $3,000 a year. And then the utilities, that covers that usually. And we usually have about $400 left of that. We didn't get that last year, but you do have 4 people here who have managed homes, businesses, and families, and we are very stingy. We had $26,000 saved up that we were going to work on the upstairs with. Every year since we've been there, we do a big project. We've done handicap ramps, redone electricity, we've redone the HVAC unit, and then this happened. New roof, we've done so much work, but we are very careful. We do not do the work until we know we've got money coming in for the next fiscal year. Usually we don't do any work until July because of that. So we're okay. We're okay.
So the city was unable to give you the grant last year?
No, they were not,
Okay,
along with many others.
I understand.
And if I recall correctly, I think the last 2 years, the community fund gave you like $5,000 a year, I think, something like that. Does that sound right?
It has varied. One year was $10,000 that kicked in for the roof. That was over, I think, a $63,000 project. 1 year, $5,000 to help on the handicap sidewalk
They
we
had
put
concrete
in.
and stuff, yeah.
And then 1 year is $3,000, I think, and that was for the electricity. We had the electricity kind of overhauled. We were worried about when you plug in something and it sparks, that's a worry.
Judge, typically, I prefer that we stay with the program that we have. As far as applying, I think that comes up in August. But since this court has already gone above and beyond requiring that that applicants stick to that, I think the only one we've went outside of that for that was brought up at the last community fund meeting was the Parks Department. They had told us what it was going to be, and it ended up being a whole lot less. But I think the court has awarded some funds outside of the process, so but this is a bit of an emergency, and whereas I typically vote against those that come outside the program, since this is a small amount and it is an emergency, I will support that, but I would encourage folks to try to stay within the program and apply when the application timeline is open.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. And you can't see because I've got a mask on, but I'm smiling. I no longer wink at people because some people take that wrong. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Item number 10, Casey Smith with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to make a presentation regarding rural secondary road program for fiscal year 2022. Good morning, Casey.
Hey, good morning, Judge. Thank you, and good morning, Court.
Good morning.
My name is Casey Smith. I'm with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's District 7 office in Lexington, and we're here to talk about the rural secondary program for the upcoming fiscal year 2022. Before I get started on here, we do have a few people from the cabinet that I'd like to introduce. First, we have Barry Davis. There he is. Yeah, he just moved on me. You go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'm Barry Davis. I'm your field rep for rural and secondary highways for the Eastern District. Glad to be here. I've met with the judge and Alan on Zoom meetings, first time in person. So Alan knows how to get a hold of me. Anything I can do to help you all, and contact me in any of our programs, the flex, emergency, or discretionary. We're glad to help in any way we can.
All right, thank you, Barry. And we also have Chris Heil with us as well.
I'm the section supervisor for LFTC here in Clark County. So if y'all have any questions, shoot them my way. They're easily
So anything construction related, maintenance related, he is a good contact that covers the Clark County area for you. Okay, like I said, we're here to talk about the rural secondary program for fiscal year 2022. And does everybody have a copy of our form in your meeting packets, in color preferably?
Not color, but we got
color.
one.
Okay, that's all right. I brought some extra copies here. Let's see, just make sure. Yeah, thank you. If you don't mind. Okay, so the rural secondary program, is a KRS mandated program where 22.2% of our motor fuel taxes apply to the rural secondary roadways throughout the state. Now on the back, there is a map on that sheet, and the rural secondary roads are the ones that are identified in the yellow color on that map. You'll also notice on the, thank you. You'll also notice on the map that there are a series of blue circles, red circles, and some orange and green ones. This is what we're trying to do is we're trying to show the court, the different roadways that have been addressed in the past 10 fiscal years. The ones that are in the blue were the ones that were taken care of, and you'll notice that there is a fiscal year number on there, the associated year of which we have actually applied the funds toward on those rural secondary roads. Going back to the table, you will see at the very top in Clark County, based on the number of rural secondary miles that we have in Clark County versus the funding that we receive through the motor fuel tax, we are at about an 18 to 25 year resurfacing cycle. That means we're able to address every single road, within that 18-25 year time period. 18 years represents, how long it would take for us to resurface the roadways in Clark County if the flex dollars are given back to the state, or 25 years if the county wishes to hold on to the flex dollars to address the county roadways. I'll get a little more into how that works a little bit later. But based on the maintenance record, or the maintenance rating that we have in Clark County, the rural secondary roadway scored a level of C, which allows the state to offer 15% of the allocated funds for Clark County. The 15% comes out to about $117,368. Now, I do want to remind everyone here that these are projected numbers. Of course, you know, we'll have the official numbers coming in the next fiscal year, which will be coming in July. That 117,000 probably looks more reminiscent of what was received last fiscal year. So we are trying to be a little more conservative. I believe Commissioner Lewis with the Department of Municipal Aid had a meeting with the county executives there. They were talking about padding in an additional 5% into the rural secondary program, since we did over-program ourselves last year due to the fact that we did not predict the COVID situation where everything was closing down, and we haven't been able to collect as much tax revenue from that for the program. So, but they are looking at putting in an additional 5% into the program in order to mitigate for that. The balance, so the flex funds that we have here that we're showing currently is $117,368. The balance of the rural secondary funds, which would be applied to the rural secondary roadways, is $297,803 with a total of $415,171. Now, below that, you'll see a blue diamond, the fiscal year 20 authorized projects. Those are the ones that the court authorized for to apply for fiscal year 20. The two projects that we had was Kentucky 3370 McClure Road and Kentucky 1923 Flanagan Station Road. Those projects have been completed, as you may have noticed. The next line is fiscal year 21, and we have introduced a new color. It's the red diamond projects. Now, normally with the rural secondary program, we would let these projects around the July, August, September timeframe. Now, because of COVID-19 happened last year, there were a few lettings that were missed, and we are currently right now actively letting projects to construction on the fiscal year 21 projects. The one that we have approved is Kentucky 1923 Waterworks Road, and I do understand that that project has been successfully let and awarded, or at least it is let. And but we just wanted to mention, just to reassure you all, that we are following through with the commitments of the approved projects from last fiscal year. And we do expect to see those projects to be completed by the end of this calendar year. Sometime in November, we'll expect to see Waterworks Road resurfaced. Going down the list, these are our recommendations. The items in the orange diamond are our recommendations for fiscal year 22 on how to apply the general rural secondary funds, which have to be applied to rural secondary roadways. The two recommendations that we have here is Kentucky 974, a portion of Kentucky 974, White Concrete Road, a total of 2.811 miles between Howard Creek Road and Kentucky 89 in, I guess, south central, Clark County. And as well as Kentucky 1924 Ford Road for about half a mile, starting pretty much in the town of Ford, coming up about half a mile north of that in southwestern Clark County. So this would be one of the motions, would be the approval. One of the motions that we would be asking for is the approval of the recommended projects for fiscal year 22, the orange diamond projects. The green diamond is the recommendation for use of the flex funds. Now, the flex funds portion, that $117,368, can be used on state roadways, and our recommendation would be to complete Ford Road, an additional 1.347 miles north out to Kentucky 418. Now, the flex funds, the county does have the option of applying the flex funds over to a state roadway, which is that Ford Road, what we're recommending, or they could hold on to those funds in order to address resurfacings on the county roads if the county needs it. About a quarter of the counties that we work with in District 7 do actually opt to apply the flex funds over to state roadways, because a lot of times they do carry a lot more traffic and handle the needs of more constituents. But it is up to the court to make that decision on whether they would like to hold on to those funds in order to apply to county roadways. So this will be the second motion that we would be asking. It would be whether or not the court would wish to hold on to the flex funds or apply it onto a state roadway. And I could address any questions if anyone has any. Yes, sir?
This last one you talked about, what's the status of that repair that fell in during the flooding?
I might have to ask Chris on that one.
Well, right now, I've met with two different contractors to give estimates for the project, but the real concern is where the rock is, because that will determine the kind of repair that we can do, how expensive or cheap it will be. And so I'm waiting on our geotech guys to come check and see where the rock is, but that'll probably be another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then after that, it would probably be 2 or 3 months at least before it gets fixed.
And second question, kind of relating to that, and someone correct me if I'm wrong. If I recall correctly, it hadn't been too long ago since WMU put that water line in from the intake, and then East Kentucky hauled all the fly ash out of there, and I thought that road was repaved after the water line and the fly ash, because I know it's a great big rut where the water line was, and the fly ash trucks rutted it out even more, and I thought it was repaired and paved. I may be wrong.
I
but
think the last time, Alan, it's just patched, isn't it? Where the water line is. It was patched, but it wasn't completely
wasn't completely
resurfaced.
paved, okay.
I'm not aware of any research.
Okay.
Casey, in regards to our rating on the state roadways, that's stayed fairly consistent over the past several years, correct?
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
Do you and Road Supervisor Curtis have on the Green Diamond, do y'all have a recommendation on that?
I think our recommendation would be to accept the plan as presented by Casey and to keep the funds for the county.
The flex funds.
Yeah.
It would be applied to the remainder of Ford Road, or
Casey?
Okay, so, yeah, we do have a portion of Ford Road recommended. That would be the first half a mile, which starts down there at Ford and half a mile up, and that's about as much as we would be able to accomplish with the general RS funds. The recommendation for the flex funds, if the court wishes to give it back to the state, then, yeah, that would take care of the rest of the way of Ford Road. That cleared things up. That is up to the court to decide whether they want to hold on to the flex funds to take care of the county roads or apply it to the rest
the
of Ford
remainder?
Road.
Yeah. Okay. And your recommendation would be to keep the flex
Keep
fund?
keep the flex funds for the county road department, correct?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Is there anything we have to have recorded in the minutes specific as to the motions, Casey, for you guys?
Just needs your signature, yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just to clarify, is that we accept their fiscal year 2020 recommended RS projects that include White Concrete Road and Ford Road, and then we will be retaining the flex funds for the county.
Correct.
All
All right.
motion okay with that, or does it need to be in two?
I think it's fine in a single motion. Do you have an issue
Motion
with
and
that?
vote, yeah, but for approval for your signature.
Okay. And, yeah, permission for me to sign, I suppose,
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah,
You just need to check no in that box at the bottom.
Yeah.
correct.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm going to go ahead and give you a copy of this now. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. She'll want one for the.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Item number 11, review the treasurer's report. Are there any questions for Alicia?
Alicia, this is obviously a 3 payroll month, this treasurer's report.
No, it will be for, I would guess, a current month, when we do have a 3 payroll.
For the month of April.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I noticed a lot of the salaried employees seemed like their payroll was considerably higher this month. Did we capture 2 or something?
I know that we had to pay some firefighters, for some
Overtime?
additional time. The road department had additional time, so I mean, that could equate for the additional salaries on the EC,
Okay.
but it was not a 3 paycheck month yet.
So this coming month's gonna be
Yes, sir.
a shocker.
Yeah, I think the flooding is gonna end up costing us like a 3
Kind of
payroll
what some of it
month.
looked like, yeah.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay. Item number 12, consider approval of the transfers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion?
I have a question. And just a clarification. When you go to the transfer of the $365,000 out of, account 079200-9990 and into 019200-9990. I get that and understand it. And then when you transfer it out of that account and into the various fire department accounts, because that's where most of that goes, or I guess all of it does.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next transfer below that, what is that?
I'm gonna I wanted to transfer the cash as well. So the beginning of transfer is for the appropriations, and then that next transfer is for the cash, to come out as well.
Very good. Understand. Thank you.
Same question I asked, Greg.
Okay. It was confusing,
It is very confusing,
Yeah.
I understand.
but it's just the cash and appropriations difference. Yeah, I understand that. Follow it now.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 13, consider approval of the bills list. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? I think Magistrate Elkins
Yes, sir.
beat him to the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 14, consider approval to pay training incentive to Magistrate Daniel Constantopoulos in the amount of $4,372.96 for successfully completing 4 training units. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just let the record reflect that I recuse from this.
Okay, Magistrate Constantopoulos has recused from this vote. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 15, discussion and approval to hire a CPA firm to complete the audit for fiscal year 2021. Would you like to go ahead and present any, Alicia?
I can, we've got the 2 quotes in there, and I do want to clarify that although Tensioner and Associates, they gave us a better price at the 2-year audit, quote, we are not allowed to commit to a 2-year audit quote, so that part of that quote is not valid.
So do you have a recommendation?
I I recommend Patrick and Associates because they are like all inclusive for the price that they gave us. And they gave us a cheaper price because of who I am. So if that makes you feel better.
Okay.
They knocked off a few $100s.
And they haven't done an audit have they done an audit for
Yeah,
the
but
county?
they
Yeah.
did our.
They did our previous
two-year
one.
The
audit.
previous, I couldn't
That
remember the name of it, yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 16, consider approval of the first reading of an ordinance regarding financing a project providing for the payment and security of a lease to create a sinking fund and/or adopt a resolution approving the same. I'll give a little background on this. Prior to our last meeting, and I've got the rates if you don't happen to still have those in front of you, CAECO provided us with some rates to finance the recent purchases we made for the fire department. Now, we did decide at the last meeting to pay cash, but as I mentioned at the last meeting, we do have an option to finance if we choose to. My understanding from speaking with CAECO is if we approve the ordinance, then we'll be eligible for the public bond pool. If we approve the resolution, we'll be eligible for a standard lease. If we approve both, they can start the paperwork on both, and we can still decide which one we want to choose later. The issues, as I see them, difference between a lease and a bond is if we enter into the bond pool, it will lock us in at the best rate, in my opinion, for 7 years, and we can't buy out of it if potentially some of the funding that comes to us from the federal government is eligible to be used on fire expenses to pay off equipment. So that's one caveat. Another thing is the lease, we'll probably have to pay more, but we can pay it off. So those are the, I guess, two issues that I see, but I don't, from speaking with CAECO, we can approve both of these today and they can start the paperwork and we can wait and see if we get further guidance on these treasury funds, which anyone who's been following the several different meetings know we don't have that much guidance yet.
I make a motion, we approve both.
No, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Judge, I guess when you say the lease will have to pay more, you mean a higher interest rate, is that?
Correct.
Yeah, and again, we can make that decision later. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Maybe we'll get some more guidance on the
That's the
American
hope,
Relief
but
Act.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have bet my life on it
I
though.
wouldn't either.
Yeah, I just don't wanna I wanna make sure we don't lock ourselves into where we can't pay it off early, should we get grants or something and not be eligible for grants because of that, so.
Okay, and of course, I'll be signing documents associated with these. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, now we move to the items that were removed from the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered approved once we voted on approving the agenda. So item number 21, consider approval of an order to transfer Nathan Gent from the road department to the solid waste program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I had some discussion.
Go ahead.
I think it was the last meeting in January, we hired Miss Brantley for $15.50 an hour. We're hiring this guy for $15. I'm not sure what the difference is, but nonetheless, at that particular meeting, I was concerned about having an employee with no job description, no amendment to the administrative code, and I was assured that that would happen. That has not happened, and I will be voting against this in lieu of the fact we do not have a job description and we have some discrepancies in starting pay. And I would still like to know when we're going to get that changed to the administrative code with the job description, because I'd like to know what this person's going to be doing.
We do actually have a job description. We just haven't amended the administrative code. I can provide you a copy of it.
Well, we need to change the code.
We will do that when the time comes. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Item number 22, consider approval of an order to promote Bill Jones to Assistant Road Supervisor in the Clark County Road Department.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will note that we do have a job description for this as well, if anyone would like to review it, but it has not been added to the administrative code. We plan to do that when we address the administrative code in the summer. Any discussion?
Just a question. Does he meet the qualifications? I think he needs a CDL, and he's required to have a roadmaster within 18 months.
He is taking the classes, I understand. Mr. Curtis, could you address that?
He's completed the road scholar, he's currently doing road masters, he had a CDL, let it lapse, and due to the pandemic, we can't get a new test date, so that's the only thing.
So what is the status of CDL licensing right now? Do you,
You can get anybody to answer the phone and get a test date, but it's very, very difficult because they're a state agency, and most of them are working from home, it's pretty tough.
okay, I would suggest,
I mean, I have no doubt he's gonna pass, I mean, he had one for years and just let it lapse, so
okay,
it's just going to take the
Well-
road test.
taking that into consideration, and I agree, I'm certain that he will, as soon as they allow him to take the test, that he will pass it again, considering his prior knowledge. I suggest we make this a temporary appointment, contingent upon him passing the CDL within 1 year. And if he does that, we'll vest that as a permanent appointment.
I would prefer that we put this off until he has it. It's very clear in the minimum qualifications that he must possess it, so I think we need to stick to it. I have no problem with it once he has it.
If we went the temporary route, Judge, is that gonna create any problems for him with his benefits and retirement and so forth? I mean,
I don't know that question. Alicia?
I don't know the answer either.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if I'd call it temporary just to be safe, just I would say that, has 12 months to achieve the CDL, obtain the CDL. Now, I know with other departments, we've had certifications where we've kind of waived that to give them time to pass it. I know we've done it with the fire department, and in the past, I know it says in the admin code, but we've made special concessions for other departments as well. So, I think we can do that and just put 12 months on it, but not call it a temporary. It clearly says must possess.
I think, if I may, I think this court possesses the power to overlook certain items when we feel it necessary to do so. So I have no problem supporting this as is. I would like to see him get it in a year, and if you can think of a way without making it temporary, I may support that, but I don't like the temporary. I'm okay giving him promotion and with a stipulation he gets it in a year or something like that. And that is, should testing dates become available, because who knows? I mean, you would think some of these state agencies will be back open by now, and clearly they're not. I deal with that, what Mr. Curtis talked about daily. Can't get test dates. Not yet. Maybe can't in a year, I don't know. We don't seem to be inclined to open Frankfurt back up yet, so.
so Mr. Curtis, do you feel it's a necessity to have an assistant road supervisor?
I do. I think he's, been with the company for, I think, going on 10 years. He's proven his loyalty to the county. He does a fantastic job for us, and I think this is just, something out of his control. And, it's nice to have somebody to lean on when you're, working 100+ hours, during floods and storms, I need a break every now and then too. And with him having that title with his name, it carries a little extra weight. It's easy to look at somebody and say you're in charge, but, everybody responds to the title.
And I don't think, I have the floor, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to add to that, I just don't think it's right to penalize him if he's qualified for the position, but because the state agency's not open due to the COVID and people working from home, I don't think there's a reason to delay that. I'm sure he'll get it, and I think we put the 12-month status, and I think I'm fine with it at that.
you're gonna offer that, I guess?
I'll offer that up as a friendly amendment there.
So, I guess, Mr. Berryman, do you have any opinion on this conversation in general?
No, at this time, no, I don't. I could look into it if you'd like and get back with you, but not at this time.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to approve Mr. Jones as Assistant Road Supervisor at the stated rate, contingent upon receiving his CDL within 1 year.
He must receive it within 1 year. I think that's 12 months. I mean, it should be,
I think that's more than fair and sufficient. I mean, granted, we don't know what's in store, but I think hopefully.
I was gonna add, maybe we just do something along the lines of, if he doesn't have it in a year, we reevaluate. This court would reevaluate that way.
Let's
If
keep in mind too, we only have, I think, 3 vehicles that are CDL required trucks. So why that's even in that job description, technically, I don't really understand that, but, you know, it is what it is. And I'm all for following the rules, but, special times call, special circumstances.
Well, I think we leave the stipulation in at 12 months, and then if in 8, 9 months he still doesn't have it, maybe we take it up again for review.
Yeah.
But, I mean, my goodness, it's a year, so
Okay. Yeah, I am sympathetic to what Magistrate Thompson says about the requirements of the job description. However, I do agree that there's really nothing we can do about these government agencies being closed for COVID, and if we need the position, we need the position. So it's unfortunate we're put in this position by COVID, but we are. So those are my thoughts. Any further discussion?
I just, years of working for the government tells me if it's written down, we need to comply with it, and that's the only reason I brought it up. If we're not gonna comply with it, let's change it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
no.
That motion carries.
No, I'm a no as well.
Okay. See, item number 24, consider approval of an order to promote Irvin Stapleton to Maintenance Foreman 2 in the Road Department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This was effective prior to our approving this, and I'm gonna vote no.
It's got the 14th on it, Robert. It's got today's date on it.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong
effective
one, okay.
4/14.
Yeah, it's today.
14. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong one, I'm sorry. I stand corrected, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 25, consider approval of an order to hire Eric Strange as an equipment operator in the Clark County Road Department. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, this one has April 7th, I'm gonna be voting no.
I agree, Judge. We've got to quit doing these dated prior to our approval. It's got to stop.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That motion carries. Let's see here. Now moving to 26. Consider approval of an order to hire Jacob Strange as an equipment operator in the Clark County Road Department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Same discussion as prior, April 7th does not set well with me.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
And that motion carries. Item number 27, consider approval of an order to hire Eric Strange Jr. as an equipment operator in the Clark County Road Department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
No.
And that motion carries. Item number 28, or no, that was on the consent agenda.
That's right.
All right. We'll now move to magistrate comments. Magistrate Graham.
Do we need to do a motion on the consent or no?
No, that's part of
When we
the
approve the
original
agenda.
of
Oh, when we
approval of
approve the agenda, I
Correct.
gotcha. Sorry, didn't know how that worked. It's the first
Okay.
time we've done it, so.
Can I ask a question on that though?
Sure.
How do I index that?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Just like you always do, just like it was on the regular agenda.
Yes,
Right, but when you go in your.
it was removed from this most recent.
That's not gonna happen.
Road department and all
Correct.
that other stuff mixed in with it.
Just notice that.
Nobody would ever be able to find these.
I think you just do it in line item, fiscal court, or
Yeah, I think you do just like
Motion
your regular
approved
minutes,
it.
just put approved by consent, I would think. I don't know. You'll have to,
Yeah, I think
Do
you
some
would list
research.
them, list them
Well, I did
individually,
make a phone call on it.
list them individually, and then just approve by consent, and if it was one that got pulled out, you just put the vote. Wouldn't you think that would work?
Well, when you normally you give them, order numbers. So there are, all these consents are gonna be under one order number.
Mhm.
The public, how will they ever be able to find it if they're looking for something?
do you have to give them all one order number, or can you
I
give
have
them?
to, because you are doing them as one order. Even though I've got separate orders.
No,
I
no,
don't-
we're approving each order. It's just,
We're
we're
approving
approving them
each
in
order.
one vote.
I'm giving them different order numbers.
Yep, they'll have different order
Yeah,
numbers.
they're separate, they're
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
orders.
yeah.
And they all have
That-
different
That was
numbers in
that's
here.
my understanding.
They're all prepared as separate orders, so
Yeah.
I mean.
Just approved at one time.
Yeah, I think we approved 6 orders in one vote, in other words.
Okay, Magistrate Graham?
I wonder if we should consider a resolution to send to the governor or whoever it might be to get our state agencies open. And particularly, we could, being the CDL is important, maybe that agency.
I'd certainly be more than happy to work on that with you if you want, Joe. You just give me the names of the agencies and we'll draw it up.
All right.
Magistrate Thompson?
I have nothing, Judge.
Magistrate Constantopoulos?
I've got just a little bit of information. I know Magistrate Blanton's aware of it. I had a member call me from the board at the Parks and Rec and had some questions in regards to the playground equipment up at College Park. It's in pretty bad shape. They've had to remove several pieces and it's in really bad shape. Me and Ramsey Flynn from the city and Jeff had met with Tiny Tots, I think is if I remember correctly, the company, and they were providing some different options as far as new playground equipment to replace some of that replace all the dilapidated equipment. So hopefully I can have some information to bring to the court and see where we stand on it about maybe looking at trying to help replace that with the city. So just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up to something they're working on, and we'll see where we're at. And hopefully by next meeting, we'll have some hard numbers on what we're looking at.
Yeah, just regarding Parks and Rec, you don't have an estimate yet, correct?
We're probably looking at close to $100,000 for the playground equipment. So, I mean, depending on what we can work out with the city, you may be looking at close to 50,000.
And Parks and Rec also requested around about $20,000 in additional funding for this year. I think I forwarded you all that letter. And of course, there's the splash pad. I expect that, there's a chance we'll be asked for money on that. Just so in regards to the whole Parks and Rec discussion, just background information, as compared to the city for this fiscal year, they cut the Parks and Rec budget, correct me if I'm wrong on this estimate, around $200,000, Robert?
That sounds close, yeah.
And, if you take into account the additional funds we provided for the lighting, we maybe cut them, about 10,000, you think, Robert?
Well, our original allocation was real close to what the city's original allocation was, and then whatever the difference in the lights made.
Yeah. So, just keep that in mind when we're going to be addressing these different requests. The different funding capacities of the city and the county, and the fact that I think we did our very best to fund Parks and Rec just coming into this fiscal year.
And since you brought up that splash park, Judge, and I'd like to elaborate a little bit on that aspect of it, is the gentleman that was making a presentation as far as the playgrounds was also mentioned that he had heard that the city had received the grant, water grant for that splash pad. one thing he was mentioning, talking with him, I said, you know, surely for $500,000, we should be able to build a very nice splash park, because I know the city originally committed $250,000, and then we received the grant for $250,000. And they said they may need to raise more funds, and I was asking, well, why are we gonna need to raise more funds if $5 million is gonna do it? Well, they said, well, you gotta buy the pumps and everything else. One thing that they had mentioned that a lot of communities were doing that had these splash park is they were not putting the pumps, it was just a free flowing from the water system and then going into the sewer, because these have the on and off, it doesn't stay running constantly, it's not using a lot of water, so you're not having to have the maintenance and the upkeep of all the pumps and the chemicals and everything, because the water's coming out already treated, and then it just runs into the sewer. So I think that's something that whoever makes these decisions needs to.
Well, it hadn't even been designed, there's nothing.
It hadn't been designed, but what I'm saying is
yeah.
before we get into the money situation talk, I think that's the route that we really need to look at, because it's gonna be lower maintenance, and the money's gonna be pretty much raised already to have one of the top-notch splash parks based on that, if we don't have to use all that equipment and pay for that additional expense, because they said the equipment's about double what the actual splash pad would be.
I don't recall. I know we've had discussions, but I don't think we've ever talked any numbers at all that I can recall.
But
Well, we never, just to clarify, and I'm not to jump in on his time, this fiscal court, well, I know this fiscal court, but no previous fiscal court ever committed any hard money.
We gave them
to
some
it.
community funds if they were spent within a year, and they didn't spend them within a year, so they went back to the pot.
But no long-term commitment.
No, it was just a one-time deal.
One-time
Deidre
thing.
came down and asked for some community funds, and I think it was probably.
10,000, I think.
I think
is
it
what
was
10,000,
10,000.
yeah.
And it was to be used, and of course, the project didn't get done. That was probably been, what, 4 years ago?
Maybe 5 years ago. It's been quite a while, Mr. Davis, but anyway, that's all I've got, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. Magistrate Blanton?
Just a suggestion, and I don't recall the guy's name, but Chief Asbury probably knows. It would probably be good if we could recognize those 3 men who pulled the guy out of the pond, or just a resolution, or just a commendation, or something. I thought that was very, very worthy of them to take a chance and do that, and they should be commended for it.
I agree. That's actually something we've discussed for the next night meeting.
And since we're back in session, at some point in time, we never did get John Henry Ramsey's wife down.
I will try to get in contact with her. Magistrate Davis?
Well, a couple things, Judge. As many people know, I don't know if there's been anything in the newspaper yet, but we had I thought, a very productive EMS committee meeting a few nights ago, and which we came to an agreement with the city commission members. We had a unanimous vote to approve. Of course, it's not come to this body yet, nor the city commission, but it will shortly, maybe by our next meeting. I think it's going to maybe be on the next city commission agenda. I think it's, each side gave to some extent, and I think it was very fair to us, and I think it was very fair to the city. I think it's, without getting into many details, I think it's a more realistic partnership agreement that reflects some of the changes that happened over the last 25 years. You know, I made the point in the meeting that agreement had been renegotiated almost a quarter of a century, 24 years since it had, I think, last been amended. So I made the point to the committee, every agreement ought to be looked at every 20 or 30 years, you know, whether it's a trade agreement or an agreement with a city. So I think it was long overdue, and I think everybody came into the meeting with the spirit of cooperation, and we got something done, and didn't take too awful long to get there. So I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to put into that. I think the EMS committee hopefully will continue to meet at least every few months. We've still got a lot of unresolved issues and challenges going forward, but everybody's committed to having reliable EMS coverage throughout the county, whether it's in the city limits or out of the city limits, and that's going to happen. There's still going to be some bumps along the road, but I'm confident that we're going to get where we need to be. The second thing I would mentioned, Judge, on this issue of the splash park, and I heard a lot of talk over the last week or so since that grant was announced. And I know that really grant is more related to the city. It is the city's. But I brought this up before. I've had I don't know how many people talk to me, ask me about it. But I think personally, that project would be a very good way for the Greater Clark Foundation to get involved in this community in a substantive way. And I think, that, as many people know, and for those that don't, that money originally came from the sale of the hospital, which was a community hospital. That was not a for-profit, shareholder-owned company, and is now administered, by a board of a private foundation. But I think most of us look at that as community money. And they did, when they tore down the old hospital building, which in my opinion was a still usable building, they did construct a park. I understand it's open now. I'm not sure that we really needed another park. I'd rather keep up parks that we already had. But nonetheless, they have done that. But I think this would be, given the size of that foundation's endowment and the money that's been spent in the last couple of years on some other programming they've done, I think this would be really impactful. And I'd like for us, it's not something we'd have to take up today, but Judge, I'd like for us in the weeks to come to consider, making a formal resolution to that board to help participate in it. I mean, this county and city budgets both, between what our EMS expenses, what we've had to do with our jail, and all these are necessary expenses. I don't think city or county, either one's in a position to jump in and fund the balance of that. It's a nice project, be a great thing for them to be involved in. So I'd just like for us to consider some kind of an official statement to that board and the individual members of that board to participate in that project. And we can, talk about that more at length, but again, it's not government money, but it was community money. It was from the sale of a community hospital. And this is something that could serve and what many believe are an underserved part of our community. If it's located where I know that it's been proposed to be located. Mm-hmm. So I'll leave it at that, Judge, but I hope it's something that we take up in the next few weeks.
I spoke briefly with the mayor after our committee meeting the other day on emergency services, just about the idea of a joint resolution, pretty much along the lines of what you just said. I feel like he's probably, amenable to that. Of course, he doesn't speak for the whole city commission, but I'm certainly willing to give that a shot. I agree with you. Let me say that the new park, I've got a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old. We've been out there several times. So I do appreciate the new Legacy Park, but I do tend to agree that, it would be nice if we could, get a little help from them reinvesting in the parks we already have. The College Park project with the playground, if that's something that we, along with the city, have to swallow, that's going to be a pretty big chunk of money. And then the splash pad as well, which, I'm in favor of the splash pad. I think it's a great idea. I used to go to the community pool when I was a little boy. Went to one of the mayor's son's birthday parties there. So, I think that area of town, needs a water facility. I agree with Magistrate Constantopoulos. We probably need to watch the costs and do it in the smartest way possible. And if we can get some help from the Greater Clark Foundation, that's a good idea. Magistrate Elkins?
I have nothing, Judge.
Okay. Let's see, what do I have here? I had Parks and Rec, but we pretty much talked about that. Oh, I wanted to mention in regards to jail funding, we talked about at our last meeting, there was an article in the newspaper almost immediately after that, when the legislature went into session. There was a part of House Bill number 556 that increased the per diem for county jails that had held inmates, state inmates during COVID. I believe that increase was $2 a head. Spoke with Senator Alvarado about that. Our estimate, and I'm sure that Jailer Doyle will probably have better numbers than me on this once he gets to break it down, but our estimate is that may result in about $50,000 to Clark County. Representative Dotson as well as Senator Alvarado voted in favor of that. So, it's nice to see county officials and state officials working together. Granted, from our perspective, we'd like it to be more, but it's good to be able to get an extra $50,000. So that's all I've got. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
No, we're done. We're done. So, finish.
Now